A challenge that I know a lot of parents experience is the whole advocacy in the schools. So sometimes parents have to change schools because the schools aren't accommodating, or they're not as open to suggestions for changes and so on. And so parents can become very frustrated because now they have to think, okay, we have this diagnosis. The school is just not a good fit. I don't know really how much to say, what to say to the school administrators, to the teachers. Based on your personal experience or working with other parents with differently wired children, what are the best practices for advocating for your child in the school system?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about this, and it's a work in progress for everyone, because schools really aren't designed for neurodivergent kids. They're just not. They're, a traditional educational setting is designed for, classroom management, compliance, everyone working at the same pace, doing the same things. And by their very nature, neurodivergent kids are going to be all over the place. They're going to be maybe really advanced in some areas and have really lagging social skills, or they are going to struggle with emotional regulation. And so I think, first of all, if you're able to, I think it's important to be honest. Like, if you're making school choices, I think it's important to be upfront about who your child is. That's not to say you dump on them a huge list of diagnoses and all of the, we don't want to lead with deficits, but we do want to be honest, because we don't want to send our child into a school where we know they're going to get in trouble because of who they are. And I think a lot of parents have fear about, again, putting a target on their child's back. If they let the school know my kid is on the spectrum, or my kid is really intense and has sensory issues, I don't want to say anything because they might not want them in their school. So I think that does a big disservice. So I think we want to assume that schools have the child's best intention at heart. So starting from that place, not adversarial, but rather, how can we work together to support this child? I encourage parents to, when starting with a new teacher or new school year, to try to have a meeting with the school or send them a note and say, this is what I know about my child. And here are some things that I've noticed, and again, include those strengths. My child has a lot of ideas. My child likes to put a creative spin on every assignment. And these are some things that can be tricky for my child. And here are ways that I have found, or through specialists we've worked with, we've found can be really supportive for this child. Make yourself available. I'm happy to come in and talk with you about this at any point. Make sure that you're moving forward with the goal of creating an alliance. We are together. We want to support who this child is. And I talk about compassionately educating, because I think we can. And I've had, just be, a full disclosure, we've had some pretty negative school experiences when my kid was younger. And it did feel very adversarial. And that's really hard. And it's painful for everybody. And I think we have to recognize that most teachers are not taught about so many ways of being differently wired. They might get one class in their entire, training to be a teacher that touches on learning disabilities, and that's it, right? So they don't know how to recognize these things. They don't necessarily know how to best support them. So we want to compassionately educate and to help support those teachers. I will just share that after, a couple of years of negative school experiences, and really just having some painful, messy breakups with schools when my kid was younger, I homeschooled for many years. And now my child is finishing their third year of high school in a kind of a unique school setting here in New York City. But I remember going in for that first parent-teacher conference, 9th grade, and every teacher was like, "You're Asher's parent? Oh my God, Asher's my favorite student." Like, they were gushing. I burst into tears because it was just such a different experience. But finally, we had found a school where my child was really seen and embraced and celebrated for who he is, as opposed to seen as a classroom problem. So it's worth it if you have the opportunity to try to find a fit where your child can really be accepted and seen.
Mhm. Unfortunately, here in Germany, homeschooling is not a thing unless it's extreme circumstances. Every child needs to be in a school. So you said that you experienced a lot of negativity regarding finding the right fit. And so do you have any pointers for parents as it relates to what should they be looking for in an education institution to see if the school is a good fit? It's not going to be 100% foolproof, but there might be some particular trends that are there that parents can look out for or ask questions in the interview for the school to see whether or not this is a good fit.
Yeah, I think looking at how they respond to challenging behavior and asking very explicitly, what do you do when a child gets upset, has a meltdown, like, do you believe in punishment? What do you believe in doling out consequences? Do you use behavioral management systems? Like, get really clear, because if a system is really focused on the behavior as opposed to what is underlying the behavior, the actual cause, which is a nervous system response, being dysregulated, a sensory response, something that the child does not have the skills to manage yet. That's something you want to know, because, otherwise our kids are going to be the ones who get in trouble all the time, lose their recess, get, punished in other ways. So that would be one really important thing. And then another thing would be to ask, how much flexibility is there in the way that my child presents their work or demonstrates their competency in different areas? Because we know, for example, that a lot of neurodivergent kids, whether it's because of a learning disability or a processing issue, that writing, for example, can be really hard, right? And there's all these expectations: write a short essay, write a piece about what you did on summer vacation or whatever. Writing can be a huge roadblock. And so finding out, are there other ways that my child can talk about what they thought about this book or what they did on summer vacation? Can they make a photo essay? Can they draw something and do a piece of artwork? Could they compose a song about it? Because my child is really, really into music. So, seeing how much flexibility is there within this system for my child to really play into their strengths and still learn all the things, but demonstrate their mastery in other ways. So those are two really big areas that I would encourage parents to get curious about and see what's possible.
I like that because, again, as you said, some schools might take the behaviorist approach with the rewards and consequences. And for a lot of neurodivergent children, that might not be helpful. So it's to really ask them. And I guess if they are a bit iffy and vague with their responses, is to really be cautious to consider whether or not that school is an institution that you want to send your children to. If they're very open and engaging and share, then that's to give more consideration. In the classroom setting or in the school setting overall, if you want your child to feel very secure, because they will realize that they have different challenges, even though they have their strengths, they have different challenges compared to their peers. How can you support your child to be very secure in any environment outside of your home? It's easy to control your home environment, but when they go to extracurricular activities, when they go to school, how can you create in them a sense of feeling really secure about who they are, regardless of the challenges or limitations they might experience?
Yeah, I think that's really hard because we don't have a lot of control in those other environments. So the more that we can try to compassionately educate those teachers or those sports team coaches or other adults that they're going to engage with, the better, because those teachers or coaches are setting kind of the culture for the team or the classroom. And that is where that can be really tricky, especially for a younger child who is getting in trouble all the time. And then the other kids start looking at them like they're a troublemaker. And so as much as we can encourage or support the institutions or the adults in these other spaces to recognize our child, that's going to go a long way. And I think it just has to be an ongoing conversation in our homes with our child. If you think about this ratio, for every one negative comment our kid hears, they need to hear 4 positive ones. And so I think we as parents and caregivers always want to be not falsely praising our kids or telling them how, we can tell them they're awesome, but we don't need to be like, oh my God, that's the best painting I've ever seen. Or, we don't want to do that, but we want to notice all the time, like, you are so creative. How did you think of doing that? I so admire the way that you tackle that assignment. I would never have thought of that. So that's just one example, but always kind of, I noticed that you, at this play date, your friend was, you went and got snacks for you and your friend. That was so thoughtful of you. You're such a good friend, so just noticing constantly. I think that is a job that we're going to want to just always do to help kind of fill up our kids' bank account, if you will, with those, esteem points, because if they aren't in supportive environments, they are going to lose a lot. That's going to take a hit. And so again, we can't control those environments, but trying to create enrichment opportunities or relationships with peers and adults where they can fully be seen is going to be really important.